we're transitioning from Christmas now, and so working on some light shows. So projection mapping, but with light shows. And so we've got a Trans-Siberian Orchestra one that put together here, which is kind of fun. But one of the things I really wanted to nail down for this was to get things reacting to music. So like this video and we're going to be using expressions to do this. You don't necessarily have to know what an expression is or how to use them. I'll just kind of show you the things to type in, and then you can play with it without necessarily understanding really what's going on. That's totally fine. So if I have this composition that has Trans-Siberian Carol of the Bells, and I've got this little neon tree here that I've been using in my project that I can change to different colors or do whatever I want. So if I want to make this thing react to the music, what we're going to do is right click on the audio file and go to Keyframe Assistant and click Convert Audio to Keyframes. And what this is going to do is it's going to create a solid layer that has all the little keyframes that we want. So if we like zoom in here, you can see that there's a whole bunch of keyframes. Bunches of them. So now we've got the keyframes created for us automatically. By default, it does a left-right channel and both channels. If your audio track just has it combined, then you can actually just turn off or delete these to kind of clean it up and keep it simple. So for this one, I'm going to use this both channels has all those keyframes, and you can click on this slider effect and then click this graph editor, and you'll actually see the keyframes in a graph view and see how they're moving around to the music. So like the music starts pretty low, and then there's the big crescendo. So now what we want to do is take an effect and tie it to those keyframes. So, and one thing while I'm in the graph editor to notice too is that there's this range of how big the beat is or how big the sound is. Ranges from like 0 to 30 units. And so that's useful. We'll come back to that in a little bit, but there's tons of these little keyframes. We may not want to have an effect respond to every single one of those. We may just want to do the ones that are the bigger units, the bigger bumps. So we'll come back to that in a bit. Close the graph editor. And so what should we make this tree do? Let's make it pulse a little bit with the scale. Like if I move the scale, then we can make it kind of bounce like this, which is what I did on that guitar to the beat. Let's start with that. So what we'll do is hold down the Alt key and click the stopwatch next to scale. And then there's this swirly cinnamon roll type icon. You can click on that and you're going to drag it to the slider on our audio amplitude layer. And it's going to do some fun little formulas, but that alone will now make the tree go to the music. But it's most basic, that's all you have to do. One thing that's a little annoying though is that it's tiny. For whatever reason, when you do this on scale, it defaults to making it smaller, which I don't actually know why, but whatever. So what we can do is at the end of this little formula that we have in here that it created, you can do plus and then do brackets. And you can put in a value 0 to 100. 100 would be full size for scale. And so you can put in what size you want it to start out with. Like if we want to do 75 scale, see how that looks. Okay, and so that's that's the basics of it. Now there's some fine tuning we can do. Like at the beginning of the song, maybe we don't want it moving to these little bitty beats, quiet beats. And so that's where we're going to go back over to this slider and how I mentioned that there's these units that we can use. So if we want it to respond to, let's say we only want it to scale if something's above 15 to get the bigger beats, then what we'll do is hold Alt again. This time click on the stopwatch next to slider on the audio amplitude layer. And again, you don't need to know details about this, but you'll type in ease, which is going to make the keyframe transitions smooth, and type in value. And then there's 4 values that we're going to enter into this. The first 2 are going to be that audio range. So if we only wanted things to respond if it's above 10, then we can put in 10, and maybe as an upper bound, we'll do 30. You know, it just looked like it was a scale of 0 to 30. So we'll just say if there's anything between that 10 and 30, then I want the scale to respond. And then the next 2 values are the starting point and end point of how much you want that scale to oscillate or to move. And so if I think ours, so we'd set it at 75 down below. So maybe if we started at 75 and we want to scale it up to 100, that's the range that it will scale. And then we can kind of play it and see if that's. Yeah, and I don't like that. So let's try 50 here. So it starts smaller, and it's not small enough. Let's go down to 20. Okay, let's try that. So here we got the quiet part of the song, and it's not doing much. It's exactly what we want. And then when it gets to the part where there's heavier beats, there we go. Kind of going out of the comp. It's hard to cover two numbers a little bit more. But those are the numbers that you can play with. Okay. So that's how you do it scale. Let me back this out and try it with a different effect though. Let's try, if we wanted to make this glow, I can add a glow effect. And of these different knobs, probably the one that would look best would be maybe the radius. Like if we have a radius of 0, let's turn up the intensity too. If we have a radius of 0, and then you can kind of get it to expand out quite a bit here. Just kind of might have a cool pulsing effect too. So let's try it with that. So now we have this glow effect down here, and intensity is the one that we're wanting to tie to the music. So we'll press Alt on the keyboard, click the stopwatch, grab our little cinnamon roll, and drag it to the slider. And for whatever reason, I'm not entirely sure, but for whatever reason, the formula down here doesn't work the same way with scale. So we don't have to do that plus 75 stuff we did before. And it's not doing much right now on the radius. And so this is another area where we're going to come up to the slider on the audio layer and play with the settings till we can get it to work the way we want. So for this, we'll do 10 to 30 again. And let's say we want to start with the radius of 0 up to, let's just try 200. See how it looks. Not bad. So there you go. There's and you can just kind of fiddle with the numbers until you get the desired effect that you want. And you can combine multiples of these, so you could have scale moving and the light going with it at the same time. I haven't actually tried it, but I think you can do both at the same time. Let's try it real quick. Let's just see what happens. I'm gonna go back and do the scaling again. And slider. I gotta do my plus 75. looks like you can combine them. Not sure how well that looks, but you can combine them and then fine tune to get the desired look. So there you go. There's one way that you can tie your effects, properties, the transformations to the audio track.